lot of experience in home health, and unfortunately, a lot of the providers group the therapy, and they always really do look for physical therapy, for ambulation, for safe transferring, and really strengthening. Maybe it was after surgery, hip replacement, but we all forget, those simple tasks that we take for granted that we do every day. They don't see them in that setting. They only present themselves at the hospital when the surgery was, or selfishly when they're in the hospital, when in their doctor's office for an appointment. So that 15-minute, you really can't tell if they're really adhering to their ADLs on a daily basis, unless the family is recognizing it. And I usually tell a lot of family members, to really kind of journal. So when they go to a doctor's appointment, please bring that up with your senior loved one, that what they're not able to do, because everybody's very prideful, the seniors. Oh, I can do that, and I can do this, I can do that. But we take it for granted. Even taking medications, even if it's laid out for them, doesn't mean that they're taking them, because nobody's reminding them to take them, or they're doubling up on it, even if it's put in a blister pack. But bathing, what you brought that up, is very, very difficult, which we take for granted for so many years of doing it on our own, but it's the fear of falling. So a lot of seniors are not bathing as they should, which could now compromise their health.
Sure. Of course, there's a lot of fear of falling, and a fear of forgetfulness. I mean, a lot of times seniors are aware to a certain degree that they are not invincible, and their way of masking that or avoiding that is to just avoid the activity. So maybe they're afraid that my memory's kind of slipping. I'm not going to cook on the stovetop anymore. I'm just going to have frozen dinners that are full of salt. And now they're not getting nutritious meals. Or to Linda's example, I know I've been slipping lately. I've had a lot of near falls. I know it's slippery in the shower, so I'm just not going to bathe. And the hygiene takes a hit as well. And so it's true. It's really true that a lot of senior loved ones are aware that maybe something is off. And sometimes I'll speak with a patient, and I'm noticing these too, whether it's a cognitive assessment that I performed with them, or a sequencing task where I noticed something's off, and so I will bring it up with the family present. Mr. Smith, I'm really concerned about your ability to independently manage your medicines. I had you sort this pill box with these pretend pills, and you put 3 in one slot instead of 1. Do you have someone at home that can assist you with this? And oftentimes, more than not, the answer is no. Or, yes, my daughter, but my daughter works 12-hour shifts. And so is there someone really there when you're taking your medicines? And so the topic of conversation, sort of, the paradigm shifts to, well, have you ever considered transitioning to a senior living community where someone can assist you with this activity? They're not going to strip your independence of it, but they're going to be there. There's going to be someone to assist you if needed. And like I said, a lot of individuals know that they are having some difficulties, and the conversation turns to, my daughter brought that up recently. We had this conversation, and she's my daughter, so I just blew it off. But now that you, as a healthcare professional, bring it up, maybe I should. And that's not, again, to toot my own horn or make it sound like I know more than Mr. Smith, but sometimes it's that outside healthcare professional, it carries a little bit more weight. And so, that being said, I would encourage, if you have a senior loved one who is receiving therapy services, and you're wondering, is it time that my mom, my dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle transitions? Bring it up with the OT present. See what they say. Get that additional healthcare professional in there to be able to speak to it, and you'd be surprised at the weight it might carry.
Thank you for saying that, Lauren, that having that open dialogue, and you being a professional as well too, could also help a doctor figure that out. Because when there is applying to go into assisted living, which we call an 1823 form, and here in Florida, is a form that the physician is completing about mostly ADLs. Now, do you need assistance with walking? Do you need assistance with grooming? Quite honest with you, that doctor, he or she, is really guessing at it because they're not there on a regular basis. So your study and your evaluation really comes into play in a very big part of that for when they are transitioning.
And
into
supervision is a level of assistance.
Absolutely.
I say, sure, dad can bathe himself, but the question I always ask is, would you feel comfortable being completely out of the house while he's in the shower by himself? And the answer usually is, well, no, I have to be there just in case. That just in case means that dad needs supervision. And so that is a level of assistance as well. But to your point, Linda, it's easy to assess if someone needs help with walking because they're walking into your office.
Correct.
But you don't know if they need help with bathing or dressing. And so,
I always say to a lot of my clients is when they go to the doctor's office, they're on their best behavior. It's like going to the principal's office. So they're properly dressed, they are answering the right questions correctly, and so there's really not to go anything against the medical provider because only what they're given is what they're being given. So your professional approach is definitely needed. To assist the doctor in giving the right appropriate care or assistance. Lauren, thank you so much. I mean, this really is very valuable for a lot of my clients, and I do senior placement. How do you feel as a role as an occupational therapist, what senior placement services are all about, and how could it really help you out as an occupational therapist with your patients?
Oh, great question. So I love senior placement services, and the reason being, I deal a lot with patients and caregivers, overwhelmed caregivers. Maybe it's a new caregiver, maybe mom just had a stroke, and that person is so overwhelmed, they don't know where to start, they know they cannot provide the assistance that mom needs, they know that mom needs more assistance at a senior living community level, but they don't know where to start. On the other end of the spectrum, maybe it's a husband of an elderly wife who has been caring for her and she has dementia and he can't leave her alone, not for a minute, not to go get a gallon of milk. In both instances, both caregivers are overwhelmed, both caregivers are stripped of time and resources, and so why would you try to take on that task by yourself of seeking out an appropriate assisted living, touring those facilities, having the conversations about the cost, the care level, what's needed, what social activities are available, etc., when you're already stripped from time and energy. Why wouldn't you use a professional who does that exclusively? When you buy a home, you use a real estate agent. When you have a plumbing issue, you call the plumber. These are not things that you do on your own, and so why wouldn't you use a professional? Why wouldn't you?
Thank you. And it kind of takes off the burdening of the excuse that somebody else is doing it and seeking out the navigating of the options, especially when it comes to licensure. And I could get a little bit more in depth. And I always say it's really not about the chandelier, the beautiful carpeting. It's really about the care. So that's where I focus in on because I do tap in to the 4 pillars of needs. And a lot of people don't do that as placement specialists, or you're not knowing that those things really need to be included when you're looking for a senior living option. The 4 pillars of needs are, as you well know, is financial because we have to be able to afford it.
Sure.
And then secondly is medical, is what your diagnoses are and if they're capable of taking care of that. And then a lot of people forget that being social is very, very important. And I know you as an occupational therapy like to see them not be isolated, being social with others of their likeness. And sadly so, we experienced a lot of isolation during the pandemic. So with that being said, there was no stimulation other than a TV set. And the last pillar is spirituality, whereas they can practice their faith.
Right.
Again, unfortunately, a lot of folks who are not allowed to go to their place of worship because we couldn't congregate. But now we have a lot of services that come into senior living.
Right.
So thank you for saying that,
Yeah.
because those are the things that everybody forgets, and they're overwhelmed. So they're seeing it from rose-colored glasses sometimes, but also from a distance when we really need to get into the finite details of what
Exactly.
each facility
And with
offers.
occupational therapy, I touched a lot on things that we need to do. We need to be able to brush our teeth. We need to be able to bathe. We need to be able to toilet. But occupational therapy also looks at what you want to do. You know, what occupies your time. Maybe it's crocheting. Maybe it's going and playing bingo. Maybe it's being part of a book club. And again, for all the reasons that you mentioned, you can't access those things anymore because you're home alone without transportation, or there's no one else at home with you, so on and so forth. And the assisted living communities, senior living communities in general, make sure that a client or a resident, in this case, a resident's needs and wants are all being attended to. Whereas they might not get that at home, isolated at home.
I agree, and it's a better quality of life. And I always point it as you had mentioned, it's no longer in existence. You know, you look forward to tomorrow, because if it's the same mundane thing every day, there's really nothing to look forward to. So, you know, senior living does broaden that whole quality of life and wanting to get up for the next day.
Absolutely.
And what's to offer me today.
It's more than safety, it's more than health, it's quality of life.
Amen. Thank you.
Yeah.
Lauren, thank you very much for coming today. I really appreciate that, and I know my clients and my viewers are going to be very, very happy with what you had to bring them. These are Tuesday talks that we do quite often. It's every 2 weeks, and when you have any questions about Golden Rule Senior Placement Services, I always lead you to my website. At my website is www.goldenruleseniorplacement.com. You will see a whole host of information there, including my biodemographics, the various options that we spoke about, and resources in these video talks as well, and links to social media. So thank you. Every 2 weeks we will be bringing you these topics. If you have one that you would like to see us to talk about, please write to me and I'll make sure that it happens. Thank you for viewing. Have a blessed week, 2 weeks, and I'll be seeing you Tuesday. Bye-bye. Thank you.